Have there only been 3 or 4 different title blocks on Groo the Wanderer comics? Nope, there have been way more, and our keen eyes will spot them all. Hi, I'm Darren, these are my hands, and this is GrooTube, where we appreciate the art of Aragonés. Today, I'll be examining the title blocks on the covers of Sergio Aragonés' Groo the Wanderer. We'll see the changes he made to it over the years, hunt for little jokes that he drew in from time to time, and even see where he made big exceptions and drew something totally unique. This is a big pile of comics. Let me clear some space, and we'll get going. Here we've got Pacific Comics issue number 1, the prototype for the Groo title block. Big block letters for Groo's name and the Wanderer subtitle beneath it with Sergio's name above. Groo's swords are behind his name with the straps of the sheaths draped over Groo's name, and Groo's blue Walkman dangles between the 2 O's. The actual title block itself is outlined, in this case it's blue, and the color differs through the issues, and often part of the cover action blocks part of the nice title block. This is where we start. This is issue number 1 and title block number 1. Just for comparison, we've got issue number 5 here, a nice clean version of the Pacific Comics Groo era title block. Next up, we have the Eclipse special issue. It is very special, it is rare, it is desirable. The title block is the same as the PC title block because it was actually written and drawn for Pacific Comics, but PC went out of business and Eclipse published it. I don't have it, but that's okay. It's just one issue of Groo that I don't have. I don't have to have every issue of Groo, and just because my collection of Groo comics isn't complete doesn't mean that I'm not complete. I'll be okay. It's really not a big deal. So very quickly, we get to the Marvel Epic Comic version of the Groo the Wanderer title block. A new title block style for a new publisher. We've got different style block letters for Groo's name. Groo's swords are still positioned behind his name, but they take up less horizontal space. Straps and the Walkman are draped across, but it's a slightly different position. New in this title block, we've got this banner, this scroll thing that starts at the top, passes behind Groo's name, and then borders at the bottom, providing the location for Sergio's name and the Wanderer. I like this title block a lot. Let's take a quick look at issue number 2. Let's compare them. And we can see that the title block is substantially smaller in issue number 2, but it's clearly the same title block, simply reduced in size. Presumably the title block was photographically reproduced for each issue. Let's take a look at issue number 7, continuing in the same style here. It's big again, but notice that there's no color in the circles of Groo's Walkman. Let's keep going. Here we have Marvel issue number 9. A subtle change to the title block, perhaps. The banner is gone. A rounded rectangular frame is added around the title block. Sergio's name and the Wanderer are re-lettered. The swords are slightly longer, extending past the second O in Groo's name. And the straps are slightly different with a knot down here at the bottom. This is the title block that we're going to see for perhaps the longest run, at least in the Marvel era of Groo the Wanderer comics. Here I want to show you issue number 13 as an example of a slightly smaller title block. And here in issue number 25, perhaps the first gag that we see, Groo slices the strap in half near his Walkman. Very clever, Sergio. I'd like us to take a quick look at issue number 27. Right here on the R under the straps, there's some shading that I don't think that we see at any other time in the title block for this era. So, something interesting to take note of. Okay, here we are at issue number 34. We've got some stippled dithering in the letters of the title block. but you might notice some really dark shadows under the straps here. Again, this is something new that we don't see in any other title blocks from this era. And now for our first way out title block. This is November 1987's Death of Groo, and it follows no convention other than sort of trying to keep the style of the R the same in the title block. It's on a nice scroll. Sergio and Mark are getting more of an even billing here at the bottom under Groo himself, so maybe Sergio's actually taking a demotion on this title block. All right, let's keep going. Marvel Epic Comics, issue number 35. Sergio pushing up from behind the title block. Very funny, very clever, very nice, Sergio. And in issue number 37, one of my very favorite covers. I love the way that Sergio does the shading with the cross-hatching. But in the title block, we see a double border in Groo's name, so that's a bit different. Here's another fun variation in Groo issue 38. In the title block, the words Groo and the Wanderer seem to be punched out, showing the moon behind. Yet the straps pass in front and behind the punch-outs, and it sort of breaks my brain. A really nice cover. And a beautiful title block. Continuing along with little gags in the title block, Groo's Walkman has become detached from his straps. Is this signifying limp impotence as Groo is forced into marriage? And then we've got issue 48. Are you paying attention? Where's the round rectangle frame? Here it is in issue number 62, but the strap is broke again. And this time it's been tied up in a double sheepshank knot. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This is February 1990. Here we have some of the Groo Chronicles. These were sold starting in 1989. We've got the brand new calligraphy style letters for Sergio's name and Chronicles. Even Groo has a new calligraphy style. This was a really big change, and one that many folks wouldn't have noticed. If they were collecting Groo monthlies and didn't need this collection of early Groo comics, they might not see it. The katanas are still hanging in the background, so that's carried through. All in all, it's very classy looking and on a nice scroll. Definitely a premium title block for a book of old stories we've already bought and paid for years ago. In fact, this title block will be used and reused for years and years every time Sergio decides to repackage and sell us the same old jokes over again. Yes, that's a joke, by the way. This is my ratty copy of Marvel 64 with Groo painting graffiti on the title block. Released in April of 1990, well before Graffiti Designs was releasing anything Groo related. Here we've got the first of the Groo trade paperbacks from Epic Marvel Comics in 1990, reselling more old stuff and reusing the old and classy title block that we saw in the Groo Chronicles. This continues while Epic continued publishing the trade paperbacks of the old Groo catalog. Issue number 76, we've got another cut strap in the title block. And now we have issue number 77, Referto's Magic Wish, written by Mark Evanier, the biggest change to the Groo title block in 6 or 7 years, and it sets a standard that I think all Groo title blocks have been based off of ever since. We've got Groo's swords and straps and Walkman staying generally in the same place, hanging behind Groo's name, a convention that is almost always followed. But now the block letters are gone and we've got more of a calligraphy style. Groo's little pouch and mini skull, which I believe is attached to the pouch, are hanging off of the G, and instead of a rounded rectangle for a frame, Sergio now has the title block on a scroll. To me, this signifies the beginning of the middle age of Groo comics. Goodbye, old title block. Next, I want to show issue number 80. This is part 1 of the 4-part Legend of Thais miniseries. Sergio extends the height of the scroll to add space for the name of the series, something that he'll continue to do for other miniseries. For example, Wager of the Gods, but I won't show them all. Here we have issue 89, and we've got another limp hanging strap dangling in the R. And look, Chakal's back. Her front, too. Okay, one last example of the extended scroll. This time, Sergio makes space above the title block to pose the question, what is more crooked than the nose of Groo the Wanderer? His lawyer. Next up, we have The Life of Groo from March 1993. This is the second Groo graphic novel, and oh, I don't have it. I could explain, but I don't need to explain. I also don't need to have a copy of the first printing of The Life of Groo. I'm okay with not having that. Are you okay? All right. This time around for the Groo graphic novel, Sergio uses the current title block that he's using on the Marvel Epic covers. The scroll is extended a bit vertically to allow space for the calligraphy above Groo's name, and in subsequent printings, the cover gets new art, but the title block is basically the same. Oh, and when Graffiti Designs republished Death and Life and the Death and Life hardcovers, they use the same title block. Beautiful new art on the covers. I don't have those issues either, but I'll be okay. I know that they're very limited edition and they're autographed, but I'm okay. No biggie. Issue 106, Man of the People. I don't have this miniseries either. It's one of the holes in my collection, but I'm okay. Just because my collection isn't complete doesn't mean that I'm not complete. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. And that's about it for the title blocks during the Marvel Epic era of Groo. And you know what? We're over 28 title blocks, including variations, and more than a decade, 13 years into Groo the Wanderer title blocks. Still, if you like these type of deep dive Groo the Wanderer videos, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment too. Thank you very much. Let's get rid of these. Well, not get rid of them, just put them away. So here we have Image Comics number 1 from December 1994. And what do we see? Well, let's bring this out. A very similar rendering to what we had going on in the Marvel comics earlier. You'd be forgiven if you thought it was the same. The calligraphy style is the same, but it's been redrawn. The crossbar of the G is now joined to the R. The line weight is a bit heavier, and there's a drop shadow. Sergio's name is now in upper and lowercase as well, so that's new. Groo's swords are at more of an angle, poking out a bit higher, and they're a bit smaller, only extending through the O. And Groo's Walkman now dangles between the two O's, much like they did way back in the Pacific title block. And we lose the little pouch and skull dangling from the G. One last thing, and you've noticed it, it's that the scroll that frames the old title block has been replaced by a contoured outline, which provides wonderful separation for the title art. Now, you might think that that was it for Image Comics title blocks, but no. On the third issue, Sergio changes things up again, and it's subtle, but he rewrites his name. Some of the letter forms are the same, but others are quite different. The S, E, R, and G really are quite different, and everything is given a bit of a squash down. The loop of the lowercase g in Sergio fits perfectly between the G and the R, and the whole thing looks very, very nice. But that's not all for Image Comics. Here in image number 11, Tom Luth, Groo's colorist, has definitely gone digital at this point, and we can see how he's enjoying using Photoshop to give Sergio's name that embossed look in the title block. Now on to Dark Horse Comics. Groo has been with Dark Horse for over 20 years and still hasn't put them out of business. And this is also the period of time where the title blocks have been the most consistent, with one major exception that we'll get to in a moment. What's changed and what stayed from the image title blocks? Well, the general style of both Sergio's and Groo's name has stayed the same. The big change in the letter forms is the curlicue added to the tail of Groo's G. It also appears that the quality of printing has increased, allowing for finer line detail, which is especially noticeable in Sergio's name. It also appears to my eye that the whole width of Groo's name has been reduced, making the letters slightly thinner and changing the angles of the strokes just a bit. We see that the drop shadow from the image title block has been removed. Groo's swords are moved again so that they are entirely behind the last O in Groo's name. The handle sticks out more to the right. Groo's Walkman dangles low, and the straps dangle even lower, often interacting with the title of the current miniseries. Lastly, the outline that was framing the title block on the Image comics is gone, and a new scroll frames the title block. Here are some examples of the consistency in the Dark Horse title blocks from Fray of the Gods and Hogs of Horder. Now, some Dark Horse miniseries changed the title block up a bit. For example, in 2010's Groo vs. Conan crossover, Groo's name is shrunk to make space for Conan's name in the title block. And on the wonderful 2014 12-part Friends and Foe series, each friend or foe has their name added to the title block on a pendant that blows across the bottom corner of the title block scroll. Very nice. Perhaps the most significant variation in the past 20 years is the Groo and Referto miniseries. This series came out in 1998, and it was a dark period for my Groo fandom. I hadn't turned my back on Groo, I just was unaware, and so, no, I don't have this miniseries. Do I feel bad for not having it? Sure, I love Referto. I feel like I'm letting him down. The title block itself is unique in that the right edge is made to look like lots of ribbons curling back upon themselves, like more pendants blowing in the breeze. And of course, Referto is so important. It's like he gets equal billing with Groo. He doesn't just have his name written in. His name is in full block letters, just like Groo's. And the tail of the G in Groo is affectionately looped through the R in Referto, just showing the love. As is the loop in the G in Sergio's name. This is the only title block where it loops through the R in Groo's name. Referto, a special doggo with a very unique title block, and perhaps the best title block since Groo moved to Dark Horse. And I don't have it. Well, that about covers everything. All the title blocks from all the Groo comics starting all the way back in 1982. Hey, and the Groo and Tarzan comics are coming out this July. Do you think that that'll be a new title block, or maybe something similar to the Groo vs. Conan titles? Let me know in the comments, and also, please let me know if I erred in my exploration of the Groo title blocks. Thanks for watching to the end, Groo friends. Make sure you're subscribed, because I'm going to be back again really soon with some more GrooTube.